What's up, everyone? Welcome. It is Mr. Irwin. Today, I am very excited to bring to you a brand new unit of study. We are going to start the geometry section of sixth grade math. On the screen right now, you should see a copy of the sixth grade formula sheet, and it features all of the geometric shapes we will be studying and all of the formulas that you will need to be aware of and be able to utilize as we work through this unit. There will be a copy of this formula sheet on Brightspace, so if you have access to a printer, I highly recommend printing a copy out. If you don't have access to a printer, make sure you keep a digital copy or a link to this copy available to you throughout this unit because you will be accessing it quite frequently. All of the formulas we will use at some point. You are not required to memorize any of them. That's why it's a good idea to have this formula sheet handy in case you need to access one of them. So today we're going to start real simple. We're going to start with the area of regular polygons. And if you remember from earlier math classes, you studied area. I think you mostly calculated it using just rectangles, where you would do the length times the width to calculate the area. But I want you to think of area as the number of square units a figure encloses, or in other words, how much space fits inside of a two-dimensional object. Today, we're going to talk about how to calculate area in 3 different regular polygons, and then our next lesson will feature the remainder of the regular polygons you'll need to know in 6th grade. So at the very bottom of your screen, you see the first shape we are working with, and that is calculating the area of a square. And that formula is found on your formula sheet. The square is the third object in the left column. You'll see the square, and then to calculate area, the formula is A equals S to the second power. A represents the area of the square, or how many square units fit inside of that square. And then S, because all 4 sides of a square are exactly the same, S is the measure of one of those sides. We'll call it a side length. To calculate area of a square, you're going to take the measure of one of its side lengths, and you're going to raise it to the second power. All right, so let's try one out together. We have a square on the screen. We know that this is a square because all 4 sides are the same. We got 4 right angles, and we have a side length of 5 centimeters. So grab a sheet of paper, get a calculator, your formula sheet if you need it. Let's calculate the area of this square together. The first thing I'm going to want you to do is copy down the formula that you are going to use to calculate the area of the polygon you're working with. In this case, we are working with a square. So from your formula sheet, if you need to look it up, area of a square, A equals S to the second power. So step 1, let's copy that formula down. Area equals the side length to the second power. Well, the question is asking me to calculate the area, so I don't know the value for A. So we're just going to bring it down. S in a square, S stands for the side length. So if I go back to my picture, I see that each side of this square measures 5 centimeters. So I'm going to take that 5 and I'm going to replace that S with a 5 to the second power. Now we're going to evaluate our formula by following the order of operations. There's only one calculation to perform in this particular formula. It's 5 to the second power, and we get 25. So our area equals 25. Now it's very important to label your area correctly. In our initial problem, or our initial square, each side was measured in centimeters. And because area is a measure of square units, in this particular example, the area would be 25 square centimeters. You could also write it as 25, and then the symbol for square centimeters is just the centimeter symbol with an exponent of 2. So either 25 square centimeters or 25 square centimeters, either way is correct, and that is the area of that square. All right, on your screen, I have one more square for you. Go ahead, copy the proper formula down and find the area of the square. Pause your video. And when you finish calculating the area of the square, hit play again to see how well you did. All right, guys, let's go over this together. I'm going to start with my formula. It is a square, so we're going to use area equals side length to the second power. The area is unknown, so I keep the A. I'm going to plug in 3.5 for the side length to the second power. And now we are evaluating 3.5 to the second power. You should get 12 12.25, and then we're going to properly label this. Originally, we were measuring in inches, so these are square inches. Or you could also write 12.25 square inches. Okay? Moving on to our next object. The next object you'll need to know how to calculate area of in 6th grade is a rectangle. This should be a review from like 3rd or 4th grade. So we see the image on our screen, and this formula is also found on your formula sheet. Rectangle is in the left-hand column, the second object down. Here we have our rectangle, and you'll see the area is A equals LW. L meaning the length of the rectangle, W meaning the width of the rectangle, and because those variables are touching each other with nothing in between, means we are going to multiply those values. So let's try an example out. Work along with me as we calculate the area of this rectangle. On our screen, we're dealing with a rectangle, so just like before, our first step is to write down the appropriate formula for the shape. So for a rectangle, area equals length times width. Now we're going to substitute our values into our formula. The length of our rectangle is right here. That is 11 feet. So 11 will go in for L. Because the length is touching the width with nothing in between, means we're going to multiply. And then we need a value for the width. The width is over here on the other dimension. It is 2 feet. Let's go ahead and perform our calculation. 11 times 2 is 22. And because we are measuring area, those are square units. In this case, they should be square feet. You could also shorthand that 22 square feet with the feet to the second power. All right, here's a rectangle for you to try. Go ahead and copy down the appropriate formula. Find the area of this rectangle. Make sure you provide proper units. Pause your video. When you have everything done, come back and check your work. All right, guys, let's go over this together. Starting with our rectangle, we need our formula. So straight from my formula sheet, area equals length times width. The length of this rectangle is 12.4, and we are multiplying it times the width, which is 3.1. Let's go ahead and perform that calculation. 12.4 times 3.1 is an area of 38.44. Look at our label. These are millimeters. Because it's area, I'm going to call them square millimeters. Okay, final shape for today. Area of a parallelogram. Now, you know you're dealing with a parallelogram. It is a quadrilateral, meaning it has 4 sides. And the opposite sides of these quadrilaterals will be parallel to each other, meaning if you extended them forever, they would never intersect. Formula for area of a parallelogram. On your formula sheet, the parallelogram is the very last shape in the left-hand column. Area equals BH, the base of the parallelogram times the height. The base is going to be the measure of one of the parallel sides, and then the height, see, it forms a right angle with your base, and it's actually the distance straight across to the opposite parallel side. Let's go ahead and try one out together. So here we have a parallelogram. Calculating the area, step 1, as always, copy down the appropriate formula. Area equals base times height. Substituting our values in, this parallelogram has a base of 5 feet. B is touching H, means we're going to multiply, and then the height, the distance to the opposite parallel side, is 4 feet. Performing our calculation, 5 times 4 gives me an area of 20 square feet. All right, one for you to try on your own. You have a parallelogram on the screen. Go ahead and calculate the area of it using the appropriate formula and being sure to label your final answer with the correct units. Pause your video until your work is complete, then come back to check to see how you did. All right, guys, let's go ahead and go over this. Starting with our formula, area equals base times height. Base of my parallelogram is 19. Times the height is 4 1/5. Multiplying those together should give us an area of 79 4/5 square inches. If you went decimal form, that would be 79.8 square inches. Either one of those would be fine. All right, those are the 3 polygons we're going to cover for today. Go ahead and complete your independent practice assignment for these 3 polygons. Use your formula sheet if you need to. Take a picture of all your work and upload that file for submission. I'll see you guys next time.